So, if you've read Marshall's seminal NVC book, NVC, A Language of Life, and you're like, oh, this is great, I'm onto something, or I want to learn more, other than taking classes, what can you dive into? There's a lot of books out there by Marshall, kind of smaller pamphlets, and those are great, but I want to go through some of my favorites that I recommend to clients or to folks who are new to MVC, wanting to integrate it, kind of wanting a sense of either somebody else's spin on the basics or some of the applications that might be interesting. So I have a list here. Um, First of all, I actually wrote a whole list and almost forgot to include my own book on it. So the healing power of empathy. I'm going to start with it, my own book, which is a bunch of empathy stories that kind of bring to life what the sort of this idea of feelings and needs and how to make guesses and how to make it conversational, like what it really sounds like in real conversations. And so it's a collection of vignettes, really, I think, really digestible and yet I think really powerful for beginners. So there's that. In terms of other books that kind of focus on basics, I think my favorite is the Compassion book by Tom Bond. Also because they have examples, lots of stories. Like, okay, here's the teaching concept, here's the basic idea. Here's what it would kind of like look like, in a real conversation, or like here's where this kind of thing shows up. That one's great. Also, Oren Sofer has Say What You Mean, and he's kind of like the person that gets into sort of Buddhism and mindfulness, in the context of communication. So he has an interest in that blend. And if that's your thing, you kind of either already have a meditation practice or that's something you would love to also start to cultivate in yourself. That one's great. This other one is fantastic if you're like, I would love to share some of this, but so and so in my life is probably not going to read a whole book on it. So Jean Morrison has Communication Fundamentals. It's kind of a book of cartoons, and I love taking little snippets of it when I'm teaching classes or show some of the cartoons to kind of like really bring to life certain NBC distinctions. That one's great. But in terms of some applications, so for folks that are doing a lot of work on like an inner critic, so Your Resonant Self, Sarah Payton has a fantastic book. This is like a meaty book. It's got a lot of neuroscience in it, and if you're like me, I like to kind of have like the gist of that, but I don't remember all those details, and so sometimes I'm flipping through and going straight to the practices and straight to the sort of like the guided meditations, or just like she's really into the how of like what are the specific things you do. So if you have a lot of self-judgment and a lot of self-criticism, and you want to get to a different place and how how self-compassionate you are, she really breaks it down how to kind of get from point A to point Z, right? So that one's great. So in the parenting space, this one's, there's um, respectful parent, Sarah Hart, and let's see, Hodson, Virginia Kindle Hodson is her co-author. I want to actually bring in a couple NVC adjacent books into this conversation because, God, Ross Green has a book that has a little bit on empathy in it, but it's really about like creating partnership with your child. And it's called Raising Human Beings, creating a collaborative partnership with your child. And I mean, if all of us could have been raised this way, as like feeling a sense of like sort of agency and our parents, like asking for our input as we're discussing and making decisions about things that impact us. I mean, I really think that this would have a major impact on lots of the imbalances that we see in our culture. But anyway, that one is like top of the list. And also NVC adjacent is Alfie Kohn's Unconditional Parenting. He talks a lot about, you know, rewards and punishments. And there's like just this preponderance of research that says that stuff doesn't work. In fact, it has all of these negative impacts. And why do we keep using it? And starts to talk about what you can do instead. That one's just fantastic, as is Playful Parenting. Really shifted my sense of like, okay, if my kid is stuck, if my kid is anxious, if my kid is, misbehaving, doing things that I don't like, not connecting with other kids, being too aggressive with other kids, whatever it is. Um, the sort of like it's like play therapy, but interventions that parents can step into, and I think as you go in that book, it really provides lots of reframes and NVC is all about reframes in my mind. So let's see. I'm just going through my list here. I think the last place I want to go here is kind of like how to take this to sort of a structural level. And there's Roxy Manning's working on a book right now. I can't wait till that one's out, in terms of radical conversations around race and other sort of power differentials. But Decolonizing Nonviolent Communication, Menache's book on sort of structural oppression, how it shows up in shame, what you can start to do to sort of begin detangling some really intense things that we can't help but swim in, um, you know, given the, yeah, just we're human beings, we can't help it. Um, and Mickey Cashton, who I talk about a lot, her Fearless Heart blog. I love it. Her work is so dense, and it's kind of why I think the blogs are nice. I mean, they're kind of meaty as standalones, but her book, she has just several, but I've read most of them. But I like to recommend The Highest Common Denominator, the Convergent Facilitation book, for just sort of like this how-to on making more win-win decisions. Like what that looks like. It's great for folks that are in situations, maybe work-wise, where you're sort of facilitating or doing mediations. But the concepts the concepts work in lots of other scenarios too. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you a couple of ideas based on whatever would be most useful for you. Those are my favorites. Share with me what some of yours are. What have you liked and why? I'm always, just I'm always just wanting to, learn what works for people and share it with others when they ask. So thanks, everybody.